Okay, so let's have a conversation about internet safety tips for survivors. Hi, my name is Dr. Natalie Jones. I'm a licensed therapist. And I had this question about, from a commenter who messaged me about, what are some internet safety tips for survivors? So I think the first internet safety tip is the internet is very broad. It covers a lot of different things. Everything does not apply to you, so you have to be careful with what you consume. I think that's the first thing with any sort of self help. It's generalized, it's broad strokes, and it may not be applicable for you in your situation. Number two, I think it's always good to be, talking to a licensed mental health professional while you're healing and in recovery, and they could help guide you and tailor your treatment and make suggestions on things and ways that you can cope with your situation, in therapy. So they may make recommendations on, content, on books, on exercises and things like that. And, as well as express some concerns when you're just, overly saturating yourself with too much information that may not be applicable to you, or when you're using the internet as a method of avoidance or escapism. So, as opposed to going out in the world and living, you're using the internet as the only form of social connection. Number three, and I've said this before on another video, you want to be careful about the content that you consume, that it is not abusive. I did a video a little while ago about self help that has this abusive rhetoric to it. You dumbass, you did this. You're so stupid. You do this. Let me cuss you out and call you the B word and this and that and the other, and let me scream at you. This seems to be a rising trend, for men who, and most of it, by the way, I will say, is directed at women survivors. From what I've seen, I don't know that I've seen male survivors have a coach or a guru that's sort of cursing them out and screaming at them. But I think that the number one red flag is a male coach that only gives advice or rhetoric to survivors. I'm not a big fan of what I've seen so far. A lot of it follows this abuse rhetoric. It's more like, let me abuse you to get you to a better place. And be careful with that, because that kind of stuff can feel very familiar. And so you could really like this content creator because the way they talk to you, the advice they give you, it, the way that they blame you feels very familiar to your abusive situation that you're in, that you're trying to get out of, or that you have been in the past. There's also been a number of people who have really connected with said coaches or therapists and things like that, and have um, maybe tried to do one-on-ones and things of that nature that have turned into dating, or where these abusive coaches have gotten money, tried to extort or live off of victims. There was a viral story, really viral, that there's actually been several, actually, now that I think of it, where women have come forward and said that, the male coaches were abusive, down to wearing their clothes, to, basically trying to live off of them and all sorts of things, and mistreating them. So don't get romantically involved with any coach or therapist, or, really anybody. There's a fine line between idolization and getting help. And a lot of times when when people are seeking help like that, they're in a vulnerable. When you're seeking help like that, you're in a vulnerable position. So you have to manage those feelings. Unfortunately, um, the people that you are entrusting aren't always managing your feelings and your safety appropriately. So you have to do the best you can to do that. But be careful with that because that seems to be something that is on the rise as well. I don't recommend engaging in content where people are trauma dumping. So people that get ready with me while I tell you about so and so who assaulted me. I don't recommend that. There's also people that usually may lead with that and then they're asking for money. There's usually an ask of something that comes along with that. I feel like when people are sort of leading with those trauma dumping stories, one, that's not unhealthy. Two, they may be trying to get something out of that. And three, you want to be careful to protect your own emotional safety. You also want to be careful the type of content that you consume. Some of it is, in addition to maybe it doesn't necessarily apply to you. A lot of it, some of it can do more harm than good and put you into some pretty precarious situations. It can have you, especially with dating advice and things like that. A lot of the advice that's given again is very general, and if you're not careful it can put you into a very harmful and abusive relationship because here's a person that you feel like is giving sound advice, has a lot of followers, and they're saying this advice with authority in their voice, and so it's working for them, so let me try it too. um, but you're kind of just blindly following people. So one of the things, like for me, when I've counseled clients, I've counseled them while dating. So I talk to them about the importance of doing counseling and dating at the same time. So if you're going to follow any sort of guru or look at that, we also talk about that through dating. One of the things that many of the gurus don't know or don't take into an account is people's trauma levels, people's maybe intellectual abilities, or people's street savviness, or maybe even the general public understanding that those people who are giving out advice may also be uh, may have also been involved in the streets, so to speak. A lot of the gurus, the coaches that are giving this advice to you are also very predatory. I've made several videos about that. So you have to understand where a lot of the advice is coming from. It's coming from those who have also maybe at one point in time have done harm. And contrary to popular belief, the internet is not a substitute for therapy. I know a lot of people look at Instagram, TikTok, and so on and so forth. It's like, what do I need a therapist for? I can just come to TikTok. I can just come here and get everything I need, and I'm good. That's telling me. But you really need. Safety and intervention tips that are catered to you. I cannot stress that enough. And again, AI cannot be a therapist. You just don't try to shortchange and just do the work. Don't try to make your situation fit into the advice that's given onto the internet. So sometimes if it doesn't apply, you have to let it fly. I hope that helps. Thanks so much.